I'd like to welcome everybody here this afternoon, and I want to apologize first off for making you give up a little bit of the sunshine. It's one of the first times we've had any sun for quite some time, and we'll try not to keep you too long, but I was in charge of the weather, so here it is. At this point in time, I'd like to thank the members of the 34th Army Band. It's the Woodwind Quintet. Circumstances like these, we enjoy the music of the 34th Army Band, and it's one of the special things of this community, and they give a lot to us, and we're going to have some more music from them as we go on, but I think right now would be a good time to recognize them and give them another round of applause. We'll now have the invocation by Pastor Robert Gates.
Let us pray. Almighty God, creator and sustainer of all that is, we have gathered again as a community to acknowledge your presence and to express our thanksgiving, for you are the giver of every good and perfect gift. We have gathered as your children to acknowledge you as the Father of truth and the Mother of wisdom. You are the inspiration we experience in our own creativity and inventiveness. You are the spark divine within us which seeks enlightenment and growth. Be present now and renew us as we continue the journey of our mothers and fathers toward a better and more perfect world. Be present and renew us as we dedicate this library. Be present as we dedicate ourselves anew to the responsibilities and the privileges of truth and beauty, to wisdom and joy, to peace and fulfillment. Amen.
Just a couple of additions to the program everybody has. We do have on the back of the program the name of the present trustees, but there are a couple of other people here today that have been on the Board of Trustees that through this process they're here, and I'd like to recognize Sandy Gillespie and Richard Liu. So they are also part of this process. The President of the Board of Trustees will now give a welcome, David Johnson.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the dedication of the new Fairfield Public Library. We're very proud of this building, and we're glad that you could join us today, particularly since it's so beautiful out. I've been involved in this project for many years, but I'm still amazed at how nice this building turned out. It's larger, more beautiful, quieter, and more light than I expected. For that, I think we can thank the skills of the architects, the builders, and the designers who helped create this. There were a number of community leaders who stepped forward to help shepherd this project through, and we want to give special recognition to a few of those. To Stu Gomer and Jackie Parkin and the fundraising committee, who helped raise an astounding $1.1 million. To Myron Gukin and the referendum committee, who worked twice as hard as we would have liked. To Mayor Rasmussen and the City Council, who for their consistent support in this project, and of course to Jim Rubis and the library staff for their untiring efforts during the past several years. However, this project has truly been a grassroots project. Without the support of all those who made, of the hundreds of people who made donations to the building fund, who voted yes in the referendum, who volunteered their time and their goodwill during the last several years, this would never have happened. We want to thank each of you for your efforts in helping to give Fairfield a new public library. Thank you.
Mayor Rasmussen is here to give us some greetings from the city of Fairfield. I think the important thing is Mayor Rasmussen has been a strong supporter of the library, and I'm not sure whether that's because he had to go home and see Martha every night or whatever. In any event, Mayor Rasmussen.
Who do you think appointed her? I'm glad to be here today because it is a day of celebration. And I think that always when the culmination of many, many years of dreaming reaches a reality, it is an occasion to celebrate. It's a feeling of pride and satisfaction by all of you who have contributed in the planning, sharing your resources to make it possible, or utilizing this facility. All of this should be one of exuberance and satisfaction to you. Libraries, like society, changes, and the function of a library changes. And again, I think Fairfield should be very proud that we remain on the cutting edge of what's happening in library and library operations in cities throughout the country. The word community has many meanings, and to those of us striving to maintain a prosperous, vibrant city, it means we have been able to provide, through positive thinking of our citizens, those of you who are here today, the facilities that many cities our size and larger cannot boast about. When it comes to libraries, I can quick offhand think of 3 cities not very far from us, in fact all the way around us, who can't hold a torch to what we have here today. The new indoor swimming pool and now a beautiful library, it sends Fairfield rising above many other of the cities our size, not just in the state of Iowa, but across the country. We know it was not done without many long months and years of dreaming, and now today it becomes a reality. So I salute the library staff, the library board members, present and past, and the progressive cooperation of most of our city council members. I want, on behalf of all our citizens, to extend a simple thank you for a job well done. Culture is not just for those of us today, but a legacy of those of us who will follow tomorrow. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The next speaker is one of the members of the Board of Trustees who has probably been on the board throughout this whole process from kind of beginning to the end, and so she's probably uniquely able to put it in some perspective. Liz Bonnell.
We're so happy to see so many of you here today. The library for me has always been a very viable part of the community, and I can remember as a small child being able to ride my bicycle down to the old building and go to it, and it was always there. And so when I was appointed to the board in July of '87, I was very pleased to be able to have the opportunity to serve. And Martha Rasmussen and I went on the board at the same time. We had a little debate as to who went on first and discovered it was the same day. But starting in September of '87, a search and planning committee was appointed for a 10-year plan. And in going back and looking at the minutes from the board meetings, it was somewhat interesting to see that we were preparing a 10-year plan knowing that something had to be done. And at that point, of course, we all thought that the old building could be revamped. And here we are 8.5 years later in this absolutely gorgeous facility that we sincerely hope will serve the community for as many years as the old building served us. But there were so many things that went into the 8.5 years we couldn't begin to mention them all. The first step I think we took was to get a consultant to help us make some decisions as to what needed to be done, and David Smith was that consultant. Then in April of '89, we had a very generous gift from Susan Fulton Welty of $25,000 in memory of her father, who was a board member for well over 30 years, to begin the purchase of a site. And that was very exciting for us. And then I can remember the meetings with the first architectural firms that made their presentations and thinking, gee, kind of like that idea, and I like that idea. And then we narrowed it down to 4 committees, and then there were 5 of us in May of '90 who went to Minneapolis to look at the other libraries that Meyer Shear and Rockcastle had done, because we pretty much decided we kind of liked what they did, but we wanted to verify it. And after we saw the buildings there, we knew that that was the recommendation we would make. And of course, the fundraising that has gone on after that, the groundbreaking in November of '94, the construction in April of '95, and here we are today in this absolutely beautiful facility. Could not have been possible without the dedicated staff that we have and without Jim Rubus. I'm sure there are many days Jim would have liked to have kind of thrown in the towel, so to speak, because he kept the other facility running, plus coming back here every time that there was some sort of crisis, major or minor, with the construction. But Jim did it cheerfully and always with a smile, and I think we are indeed fortunate in Fairfield to have not only Jim as our librarian, but the dedicated staff that we do have. Thank you.
If you like the appearance of the building and the interior as much as I do, then of course you've got the architect to thank a great deal for that. And one of the representatives of the architectural firm is Mark Burgess, and he's the one that probably got the most miles shuttling between the Twin Cities and Fairfield, Iowa. So Mark, would you say a few words wherever you're at? Here we go.
It's very gratifying for me to see so many faces inhabiting the space that so many people have worked so hard to design, and I'd just like to say some words of thanks for the people who've worked so hard on it. I'd like to begin by thanking the library staff, the library board, and the community of Fairfield for selecting Meyer Scher and Rockcastle to be the architects for the new public library. It's been a real honor to contribute to this very important building in your community. This building has not been a singular effort by any means, but rather a collaboration between many dedicated people both inside and outside the Fairfield community. First of all, I'd like to thank the staff at Meyer Scher and Rockcastle and the project team, which includes our interior designer, Don Buffington, our engineering consultants, Meyer, Borgman and Johnson, Howard R. Green and Associates, and Pulley and Associates, and our local architectural representative, Cooper Norman. I'd also like to convey my sense of gratitude to the general contractor, Merit Construction, and to all the subcontractors who've worked with both care and diligence on the construction of the building and the grounds. A special thanks should go to Randy Duzel, who I believe is here today with his wife, who was Merit's project manager, and Dale Dolman, who I saw sneak in at the last minute over there, Merit's on-site construction superintendent. They both did a really great job. Construction of the building on such a tight site as this is very difficult, not only for those who build it, but also for those who live near the building site. And I'd like to thank the citizens who live next to the new library site for their cooperation and patience in dealing with all the conveniences that are associated with the construction of the library. I extend my sincerest thanks to the library board and the staff who actively participated in all phases of the project. Their input and suggestions were extremely valuable in the realization of the building that not only looks beautiful, but will also function beautifully for the future. And a very special thanks goes to Jim Rubis, hi Jim, who I've collaborated with really in every sense of the word, and has just really been wonderful to work with. Finally, I'd like to thank the citizens of Fairfield for their belief in the spirit of the community as embodied in this civic institution. The community's involvement was extremely influential in shaping the final form of the library. We at Meyer Scher and Rockcastle worked hard to be responsible to the community's concerns and hope that we have helped create an enduring civic institution that will serve future generations for years to come. And finally, I'd like to thank my wife for not getting on my case about working weekends and nights on this library. Thank you.
As we've all recognized, there's many parts to this whole process, and one of the most important parts, of course, was the fundraising aspect. And we had two individuals that were asked to serve as co-chairs of the fundraising committee, and they did it willingly, and they did such a wonderful job. And I'd like to present Jackie Parkin and Stuart Gomer to say a few words. Whoever wants to go first.
Thank you. Of course, I hope Stu would go first, and then I could say he said everything I wanted to say, but he's using that. First of all, I want to tell you how wonderful it is to see so many people who care enough to come out on this gorgeous day. I think it's wonderful for our beautiful library's dedication. I've lived in Fairfield for 45 years, and have always sensed that it's a very special place. And you might ask me why I feel that way, and I would love to share my thoughts with you. First and foremost, the best example is right here, the people. You can't say any more than that. Fairfield is made up of the most wonderful people you could ever want to be around. They have always, and still are, forward-looking, forward-thinking, far-sighted, and always reaching to the future, an example. They're always willing to do what's best for our city. You can certainly congratulate yourselves as citizens for this attribute. It is extremely commendable, and you need to take credit for it. Your generous nature over the years is most evident today in our library. But that's to name only one undertaking. You have, from the smallest to the largest donor, proven that the Fairfield Public Library will serve our citizens for the next 100 years. I don't know if you'll be here, Jim, as it has so effectively in the last 100 years. You citizens must know that you are outstanding and have always been, in your caring nature, people who have made available through the years the things that have made life in Fairfield an experience that is not shared by other communities, and it is not. The feeling of caring for Fairfield was most evident when former residents of all ages learned of our fund drive and responded with unbelievable generosity. Those are people who are asking their communities to do the same thing that they did for us. And they responded very generously to their hometown's needs, our hometown's needs. In this community, you have cared for our people from birth to death. And I personally wouldn't live anyplace else, and I see a lot of people here who feel the same way. I thank you personally, and on behalf of Stu and myself, for all that you've done to make Fairfield such a tremendous hometown. Today, our library is the symbol of your ongoing planning. You truly deserve your accolades. Accept them, enjoy them, and thank you so very much for what you've done for this town.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate you going first. At the sake of, for the risk of repetition of considerable amount of things that have been said already, I would like to make a few comments. I recall the mayor's comments a number of years ago when he said, you know, it's up to the community to provide some private funding before we could ask the city administration to ask for public funding. Fortunately, both of these objectives were met and have been accomplished. But none of the final project would have been accomplished, however, were not for the tenacity of Liz Bonnell and the rest of the library board over the period of years. I had no idea the final structure and atmosphere of the facility would be this attractive. I'm serious about that. It looks gorgeous. Also, special congratulations to our architect and contractors for the facility to be cost effective. The cost per square foot is about 35% less than a comparable sized library that we saw built out in the Coachella Valley, Palm Springs area this last year. The real credit for the successful conclusion and operation of the project is due to Jim Rubis and his staff. And particularly I want to thank Carol Nelson for her administrative support during their fundraising portion of the project. Also, I enjoyed working with Jackie, and if it had not been for the professional support of Tom and Gary Vance and Vance Associates, we could never have accomplished our goal. In conclusion, I want to express my appreciation to all the present and former Fairfield area family residents and the commercial, financial, and manufacturing establishments in the area which supported the library, thereby contributing to the continuation of the quality of life that many of us have enjoyed in the Fairfield community. Thank you.
I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize a few officials in the crowd, and I'd like them to, they're out there somewhere, if they'd raise their right hand, or whatever hand you want to raise is fine, but just so we can acknowledge your presence. From the State Library of Iowa, Linda Robertson, right back there in the black polka dot, is that right? And from the Southeast Iowa Regional Library, Emily Navarre, way in the back, there, way in the back, okay. And from the Iowa Legislature, Jerry Maines, and there he is way in the back too. They must have gotten here later so they couldn't be up front or something, I don't know. At this point in time then, we'd like to make this a community dedication. If you would join me reading responsively the short excerpt from the program. We gather here as a community, as friends, as neighbors, and as fellow citizens to express our gratitude for this new Fairfield Public Library. We recognize that we are here today because of the work of countless numbers of people.
As the recipients of this heritage, we dedicate this new Fairfield Public Library.
We gather here also as fellow seekers and users and conservators. We rejoice in this depository of human wisdom, this center of creativity, this resource of human inventiveness, this theater of entertainment.
As patrons of this institution, we dedicate this new Fairfield Public Library.
We gather here to face the future of our community and world. We recognize our responsibility to collect and preserve and promote those resources which will guide our posterity in the paths of fuller, richer, and more meaningful living.
To our children and to future generations, we dedicate this new Fairfield Public Library.
Well, I guess I could say last but not least, and certainly not least, every time at every board meeting that we have as a Board of Trustees, we get a chance to be addressed by our librarian. This will be your opportunity. It's been something special for me and the other trustees over the years because we really do have in our librarian a truly dedicated public servant. Jim?
We discovered over in the old library a poster for the original dedication of the library. We have it posted over there. And I'm kind of lucky because it's not quite 2 o'clock yet. We started at 1:30. That original dedication started at 8 p.m. and it lasted till 1 a.m. So those of you who are standing, you might want to sit down on the floor. There's not a person in this building today, and there's so many other people both in Fairfield and outside the city that deserve thank yous. Many of you may wish that you'd be one of the ones particularly cited today. We can't cite everyone. I do give my thanks to everyone, but there are a few that I want to specifically mention. First of all, Mary Lutz. Mary Lutz can't be with us today. Hazel Montgomery is here in her stead. And you may ask why I'm thanking Mary Lutz. Well, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here today. She was librarian for Fairfield for about 20-some years before I came. And I visited the library here once before I ever applied for the job, and Mary and I visited, and she was seeking to retire, and it was really because of her, I think, that the library board hired me to come to be librarian here at Fairfield. I want to thank my wife and my daughter for putting up with what they've put up with, like even last week, many times through this whole process. People talk to me all the time about being excited about this project, and days like today, I do feel some excitement, but most of the time I'm always looking for the negative things, what needs to be done yet. And sometimes I have a little problem seeing the positives, and they're the two that have had to face that negative the most frequently. In that same category, I want to salute my staff. Most of them are here today. A couple weren't able to make it, not only currently, but all through the 8 or 9 years that we've gone through this process. The staff has been wonderful putting up with me and helping with the whole project. Getting a little bit more directly involved, we've acknowledged Stu and Jackie several times, but a couple weeks ago I was talking to Tom Vance, who was the head of the fundraising company that we worked with, and we both agreed that that fundraising project would never have been a success if it hadn't have been for getting those two to join board and take the co-chair. And Tom actually said that was the most important contribution that he made, was getting those two to come on board for our project. Then, again, more directly with the actual project, Mark Burgess, we talked to you, and Dale Dolman, the project superintendent. These two guys, I spent hours and hours and hours on the phone with Mark, coming over here at the project with Dale, and I knew all along how important they both were and how much I was getting out of them, but I didn't really see how important it was till the very end of the project, when I was doing some of the interiors things and some other stuff that I didn't have Dale to go back to make sure it was getting done right, and I didn't have Mark to go to because he didn't have the expertise in that area and it wasn't really his job. So those two people really made this job work. I mentioned that I oftentimes dwell on the negatives rather than the positives. Many of you have heard a number of promises made through the years, both at fundraising programs that I've done for the referendum campaign, and when you're in here today, there's a lot of those things you don't see. Where are all the computers we talked about? Where's the online catalog? As you look around the signs, the big signs are nice, but on the stacks you see stuff written with felt tip markers. There are a lot of things that are yet to come. And I guess what we can do is say that's an invitation for you. You're here today for the dedication. Don't quit coming. For a few months yet, you're going to be able to come and continue to see new things and new services at the library. And really, not just in the next few months, but all through the program, or through the library. What we continue to strive to do is to bring new services to the citizens that we want. Another thing that's missing is our donor wall, which is right back there. Those two blank spots, one of them will be a donor wall, where all of those people who made generous contributions to the project will be acknowledged. I guess I'll just close in one thing. Jackie talked about this a little bit, and it's why you people are here. It's why this library is here. When I first came to Fairfield and started the job, I heard this from a number of people, but the one I remember hearing it from the most was Ruth Hunt with her southern drawl. Jim, you'll just love Fairfield. At that time, I was just out of graduate school, and I repeated that many times as a joke because I thought it was funny. 24 years later, I know how accurate Ruth was in that statement. I do just love Fairfield because of what you people do to make it a great town. After we're done here, I want you to be sure and go through all the corners of the library. There are things that you'll see that we talked about, things that in the 2 weeks that we've been open, people are using and enjoying. It's a wonderful library. Please enjoy it.
The next speaker is Dr. William Pollack. It just says down there, friend of the library, but you all out here are friends of the library. What's most important is that Dr. Pollack and several people have been very, very active in the group Friends of the Library. They provided countless hours of help to the staff and Jim, fundraising, things like that. Some of the special things that the library has have been donated by the hard work of the Friends of the Library. So it's fitting that Dr. Pollack have an opportunity to give the closing.
I'd like to talk a little bit more of not so much the building, but what this building represents. It's really a microcosm of our community. And the building, this library houses knowledge in differences. There's different areas of knowledge, And these differences is what knowledge is, but these differences together in harmony is what wisdom is. And the rededication by the commitment, the time and money of our community in creating this building to house even greater differences, making available to our desires for knowledge, but it's on the road to wisdom. And this is what Fairfield has to offer that's so wonderful. And that's the strength of our differences is what makes us strong. Not only physically, individually, whether we have kidneys and lungs and all of that, differences, but they are expressed in our community as differences that are harmonized. And the harmonizing of differences is what gives us the strength to outweigh anything, changes around us, times, and it's the library that is an institution, it's such a wonderful institution that takes the differences of knowledge, incorporates it under one roof, and our library here will serve us well. She will provide us with all that we want, all that we need, and it goes two ways. And our commitment to her and our time and effort and our love back to her will ensure that the differences remain strong and that we all will grow together in harmony. There's a Hebrew little prayer that's said quite regularly through the year on special occasions every year, and it goes something like this: Baruch atah Hashem Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. And it means, blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has kept us, who has sustained us, and has enabled us to reach this point in time. Thank you very much.
As Jim said earlier, I'd like to invite you all, when this is over, to take a look through the stacks, walk around a little bit. I presume you can even walk back and see some of the staff areas. So you kind of got the free reign of the place here this afternoon, and you might not get that sometime in the future. So take advantage of it. And there will also be a reception in the meeting room. So if some people want to go in there early, and the rest can look through the stacks and things like that, and you can kind of go in shifts. But in any event, we hope that you'll stay for the refreshments in the meeting room. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming, taking a few minutes out of their busy days. Again, this dedication is for you, the community of Fairfield. Thank you.